Welcome, everybody, to today's Scottsdale Big Book study, where we will study the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today's date is the 27th of September 2025. My name is Audrey-Anne, and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater from County Meath in Ireland, and I'll be your host for today's study. Our co-hosts also will be Maria F. and Rob H. will be doing our Q&A. If you have any questions during the meeting, please contact either myself or any of the co-hosts by private message in the chat function. The chat function will be disabled until 5 minutes before the Q&A session. Please note that the speaker, Harlan G, will be recorded for the duration of the study. However, the question and answer session which follows will not be recorded. We ask if you can please make sure to keep your microphone on mute at all times during today's study, and also please turn off your video if you are exercising, eating, or if you need to step away from your screen for any reason. During the meeting, we will post the link of our seventh tradition, and this money goes towards the cost of the Zoom account and the cost of uploading our recordings. And we also send contributions to our intergroup, Arizona Serenity in the Desert, and the World Service Organization. We will post a link for the previous recordings that will be available by clicking on the link that will be posted in the chat. And I will now hand you over to Harlan. Thanks, Harlan.
Thank you very much, Audrey. And I'm so happy to be here. I just want to take a second to remind all of you that the Vision for You convention is upon us in November 7th, 8th, and 9th, and that will take place in Newark, New Jersey. And we are hoping sincerely that you will come to this. This is going to infuse a lot of just enthusiasm and life into anyone's program. It's just a fabulous, fabulous convention. And I hope that you'll be able to make it there. For information, go to avisionforyou.info, AVISION, the number 4YOU.info. And I hope to see you in Newark. One other thing, if you can, keep your cameras on if you are able to. Now, if you're doing something obviously that requires privacy, turn them off, turn it off. But if you're not, it's nice to see a face rather than just a black box and a name. It is just much nicer to see a face. And one other thing, if you are in the state of Arizona on November the 2nd, this meeting will start 1 hour later. If you're not in the state of Arizona, this announcement has nothing to do with you. Nothing will change. But if you're in the state of Arizona, the meetings for Scottsdale will start 1 hour later. If you're not in the state of Arizona, disregard that message. It has nothing to do with you at all. We look at step 1 in this chapter, more about alcoholism. And as we said last week, that this is going to be the last of the chapters that is going to concern itself with step 1. This chapter is inspired by the book, The Common Sense of Drinking by Richard Peabody. Peabody was a psychologist. He wrote a book called The Common Sense of Drinking. And in The Common Sense of Drinking, he got a lot of things wrong, but he got some things correct. And a couple of the things that he got that were correct are that this disease, this malady of alcoholism, compulsive overeating, what addiction you have, whatever it is permanent. It never goes away. It is progressive. It gets worse over time, never better. And if it's untreated, it is fatal. We can live with we can die from compulsive eating, or we can die with compulsive overeating. I prefer to die with it than from it, because the death that compulsive overeating rots out is extremely painful. I watched my mother become diabetic. I watched my mother deteriorate because of this disease. I watched me deteriorate because of this disease. My mother, at the end of her life, had her leg amputated because of this disease. And this disease finally shut her kidneys down. She was on dialysis. It was just a very ugly death. It was just a horrible, horrible death. And so it was not a very pretty picture. We're going to start today on page 32, A Man of 30. And while you're moving your page over to page 32, A Man of 30, I'm going to remind you that this little story of a man of 30 is going to be extremely revealing as to our powerless condition and the true nature of what this is as a disease. This is going to be very, very revealing. Let's take a look at page 32. A man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. Let's stop right there for just a second. When I would get up in the morning full of guilt and shame and remorse about what I had eaten the night or the day before, the one thing I would be looking for more than anything is, what can I eat right now? So I'd be looking for chocolate. I'd be looking for whatever. Doesn't necessarily matter. I'd be looking for food as a way of killing the guilt, the shame, and the remorse of how much I had eaten the day before. But this was more of a physical thing. And maybe I had that too. I just wasn't as aware of it as the book makes us. He was nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. So this was a conclusion that his mind came to, that if he drank liquor at all, it was going to stunt him. It was going to prevent him from achieving the professional status which he truly desired. I knew that with my weight that I was carrying, a real career was unattainable. I knew that I would never be the lawyer, the teacher, the whatever, the salesperson. I knew that I could never be a person of success while I was carrying that weight, but it never slowed me down because I figured I'm just going to die anyway. What's the point? I figure I'm dead, so why should I even try in life? And thank God I was wrong. I love being wrong sometimes because I'm still alive and I'm 71 years old. And I'm still alive and I'm still kicking and, living my life as best I can. All right. Once he started, he had no control whatever. Why is that? Once he started, he had no control whatever because of the physical allergy. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. In other words, he was going to assert his power of will over the scenario, thinking that he could. The mind was telling him to take the first drink. Once he took the first drink, he was beyond control. He was beyond human aid because of the action of the physical allergy. Now, it says, an exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55. Not bad. I'd like to have retired when I was 55, and I'm sure most of us would love to be able to have the kind of money where you can retire at age 55 after a successful and happy business career. Now, he has not touched a drop of liquor for 25 years. Keep that in mind because we're going to refer back to that, because what we're going to do this morning is we're going to dispel something that you hear in OA meetings wherever you go, no matter where you are going to hear this in OA, that abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. Let's test the validity of that in just a second. Then he fell victim to a belief, which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. So in other words, how many times have I been told as a child, lose weight and everything will be okay? Just lose the weight, Harlan. Lose the weight and everything will be all right. Let's test that theory. Let's see where it goes. And let's see that in the pay-in way, you get to a certain weight and you're a lifetime member or you're whatever you are. And how many times have we said to ourselves, if only I could lose X amount of pounds, everything would be okay. And then I could eat like a normal person. Well, let's see the validity of that. Let's see how phony that is, because we have an illness. Now, he hasn't had a drink for 25 years, right? He hasn't had a drink for 25 years. If I hadn't touched candy or cake or cook whatever for 25 years, I would have been lulled into a false delusion that I could eat like other people. And I would have actually done it long before 25 years. But let's just stay with what the book says. So now he's got 25 years of sobriety. Could you imagine what a bastard he was to be around? Have you ever been around a dry drunk? They're angry, they're scared, they're miserable. They're just like me on a diet. When I'm on a diet, I'm a miserable person. I'm a miserable person. Dry drunks are not fun to be around. Let me tell you that, kiddies. Dry drunks are not fun to be around. You almost want to buy them a drink, as Joe and Charlie say. You almost want to buy them a drink because you know they'd feel better. You know they would feel better. But when they're dry drunks, they're miserable to be around. So now he's retiring. He has fulfilled his dream. He made his money. He's got whatever he wanted professionally. Out came his carpet slippers in a bottle. In 2 months, he was hospitalized, puzzled, and humiliated. Let's take a look at what that's teaching us. Let's remember that this is a textbook. The purpose of this book is not to entertain me. The purpose of this book is not to relate funny or whimsical stories so that I will be entertained. The purpose of this book is as a textbook. So here's a man, and he's in his 30s, man of 30, just about the prime of his life. He's scrapping guy. He's a drunk, but he's not drinking. 25 years, he hasn't had a drink. And within 2 months, he's in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. The reason he's puzzled is he doesn't know what we're going to talk about today, and that is this. The progression of his alcoholism did not stop because he wasn't drinking. Now, this is a very important lesson for me to learn. I have 26 years of abstinence. 26 years has gone by since I have picked up red light foods or eaten too much of a certain commodity or eaten foods that are not on my food plan. 26 years. If I picked up an Almond Joy bar today, I would not revert back to where I was. I would be 26 years worse, because abstinence does not treat this disease. I want to repeat that because I don't want you to be the type of person that goes to a meeting or goes into an OA convention or a retreat thinking that that abstinence treats the disease. It does not. The only thing that treats this disease is a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. And even that doesn't make it go away, because the disease is permanent. The disease is progressive. The disease is fatal if it's untreated. So in no way, shape, or form should anyone be thinking at all whatsoever that because I've been abstinent for 26 years or because I've been abstinent for 26 minutes, that is treating the disease. Abstinence is the entrance ramp to the highway. I'm going to say that again. Abstinence is the entrance ramp to the highway. Abstinence gives me access to the miracles and the wonderment of the steps. I want to say that again because it's key. Abstinence is like the entrance ramp on the highway. It gives me access to the miracles of recovery that are in the steps. So he is puzzled because he can't understand why after 26 years, or not 20, after 25 years of not drinking, he is horribly worse than he was before. He had drank for 2 months earlier in his life and didn't end up puzzled and humiliated in a hospital. But he's older now, and the disease has progressed. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. In other words, he went on what we would call a diet. He went on a diet. Going on a diet is only treating the symptom. I am not telling you to go out and eat Almond Joy bars. I am not telling you to go out and eat whatever it is that you binge on. I'm not telling you that. But what I'm saying to you is abstinence does not treat the disease. And being abstinent is fantastic. Is it the most important thing in my life without exception? No, because on page 45 of the book, which we're not at yet, but on page 45 of this book, it says clearly the main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Now, if it's the main object of the book, it better be the main object of my life. Abstinence without a spiritual program is dieting. A spiritual program without abstinence is just a prayer group or just whatever. They have to be together. I have to be abstinent and I have to be serving others. I have to be cleaning house. I have to be doing my amends. I have to be doing all the steps all the time. Very, very important information. Key information. This little vignette of the man of 30 is as revealing about step one as anything ever written. He is illustrating this for you, the progressive nature of the disease, the physical allergy of the disease, the mental twist of the disease, and the hopeless condition of mind and body. And he's also illustrating for you that it's permanent, progressive, and if untreated, fatal, and that abstinence does not treat this disease. Now, do not go out and eat God knows what, because eating certainly doesn't do anything for me or you at all. We're at the bottom of 32. Then, gathering all his forces, his willpower, he attempted to stop altogether and found he could not. Hold on right there. Why couldn't he? Because he did nothing for the mind. Do you remember when we were in chapter 2, we read the line, the real problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So it was the mind telling the man of 30 that it was okay for him to take a drink. Now, the purest form of teaching is repetition. And without repetition, I don't know that I could learn anything. Do you remember back in Bill's story? He walks into a cafe to telephone. Within a very short period of time, he has a drink. Now he's beating on the bar, asking himself how he got so drunk, but he might as well get good and drunk this time, and he did. What caused Bill to take that first drink? Well, it was the mental twist, not the physical allergy. What caused Bill to take the 9th drink? The physical allergy, not the mental twist. The mind drives you into the food in search of relief from the untenable pain of not eating. That in the Almond Joy bar, in the M&Ms with peanuts, hopefully. I mean, what kind of person buys M&Ms with no peanuts? And obviously, these are not Jewish people. You buy M&Ms, you buy the ones with the peanuts. Got it? If you go out, buy the ones with the peanuts. Why would you spend the same money for plain M&Ms as you could spend for the ones with the? Obviously, I can't understand these people that buy the plain M&Ms. I don't get it. All right. So anyway, he's showing you the action in Bill's story. We're going to see it again and again in the book, but we illustrate it in our lives. How many times did your mind say, I'm going to have a cookie. I'll just have one cookie. I got to see what they taste like. You have one cookie and you finish the box in record time. The mind told you that one cookie was okay. Why did your mind tell you that? Because your mind is searching for relief from the pain of not eating. You deserve a cookie. You can have just one. You deserve this. You haven't had a cookie for, say, 20 minutes. You've proven you're not a compulsive overeater. Have a cookie. You have it, and you are beyond human control. There's no human being, that, including you, especially you, that's going to be able to control the amount of cookies that you eat. Very, very important. The physical allergy reacts when the food is inside you. The mental twist is acting before the food is inside you, convincing you to eat it in search of relief. Let's go to the bottom sentence of 32. Every means of solving his problem, which money could buy, was at his disposal. Now, wait a minute. I thought when I was younger that if I had a bunch of money, I could rise above this disease, and I cannot. Money will not solve the problem. Money won't do it. We're going to see that again and again and again, that nothing that is of this earth caused your disease, and nothing that is of this earth can solve the problem of this disease to give you any type of real relief. Any relief that you get from this disease must come from God. It must come from God. And when we transcend and we realize the miracles of our Creator, that is when you will hear people say, hi, I'm Harlan, or hi, I'm whoever I am. I'm a grateful compulsive overeater. And when you're new or you're in the food, you want to take out an M16 and mow the person down. Because you say to yourself, why would any normal human being be grateful to be a compulsive overeater? And the reason that people are grateful for being a compulsive overeater is because being a compulsive overeater brought me to God. God brought me to OA, and OA brought me to God. I have the best life I could have ever had. I have a lot of friends. I'm very lucky. And my friends have great lives and wives and children and grandchildren. And some of them have a lot of money. Some of them have not so much. I have as good or better of a life that any of them have, because my life has purpose and a mighty rhythm that underlay all. That when I wake up in the morning, I have a reason to be alive, and that is to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. Then on page 77, it says to me, our real purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. That I have people that I love, and I have people that love me in this program, that no matter what I'm going through, I've had a lot of loss this year. A lot of loss. I lost a relationship. Well, that was last year. I had a lot of loss in the last while. I lost a relationship that I didn't want to lose. I lost a dear friend. I lost my surrogate mother, and others from my high school graduating class have died already this year. A lot of loss. But you know, there's something I didn't lose. I didn't lose my abstinence. I didn't lose my program, and I didn't lose God's hand to hold. He's there for me, and he's crying right with me because of the loss. He's there and he's crying right with me, and he'll cry with you too. Because no matter what I'm going through, no matter what it is that's happening, I have a reason to be alive, and I have people, and I have God, and I have a program. That's a lot to have. That's an awful lot to have, boys and girls. Let's go to the top of page 33. Very, very top. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. This disease is a murderer. Sometimes I'll get phone calls or text messages from people, and they'll say, "Why do you talk like you talk? Sometimes I get scared of you," they say to me. They get scared of me, they say. I'm not mad at you. I love you. If you're female, I'm more scared of you than you are of me. But here's what I hate, and I hate it with a purple passion. I hate this damn disease. This damn disease took my mother. This damn disease took my friends. This damn disease will torture you. They say that this disease's greatest ambition is to kill you, and that's not true. This disease's greatest ambition is to make you as miserable and unhappy as any human being can be, and then after a tortured existence, then kill you. This disease does not just want you dead. This disease wants to drag you through pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. This disease doesn't care who loves you. This disease doesn't care who you love. This disease doesn't care that you're smart and you've worked hard. This disease doesn't care how many people are counting on you. This disease is going to drag you down, and it is going to put you in a position of pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Let's go to the top of page 33, first paragraph. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remain sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. Let's stop right there. How many of us have thought, well, I've got my weight lost, I've lost X pounds, I've been abstinent for X weeks, X months, X years, I can certainly have a little of this or a little of that. Let me be the first to tell you, no, you can't. But let me be not the first to tell you that if you will work the steps, you won't want to eat that chazarai. Chazarai is garbage. Chazer is pig. Chazarai is garbage. You won't want it. The real miracle of this program for me is not that I haven't overeaten in 26 years. Listen to this because it could save your life. The miracle of Overeaters Anonymous for Harlan is this. For 26 years, because of the steps in the book and the program outlined in this book, which is the steps, it's the same thing. I haven't wanted to eat that stuff. I don't want it, and I am happy in my release. So if you're fighting food, If you're fighting food, you want to eat it, but you're not going to eat it. You want to eat it, but you're not going to eat it. And sometimes you do. That's not recovery. That's dieting with group support. The release of the recovery is, I no longer want it. I will recoil as if from a hot flame. I will recoil as if from a hot flame. That I today, because of the steps in the book, because of the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am in a place of neutrality, safe and protected. I am not fighting food. I have not even sworn off. It just comes. Is that because I'm lucky? No. Is that because I'm chubby? No. Is that because I'm from Chicago? Partially. But the truth of the matter is, it's because of what I do, not because of who I am or what I am. If you do what I do, you'll get what I got. And you will not want that food. And I'm not alone. There are people on your little screen, your little Hollywood squares, that are in blessed recovery that is better than me. They are in places, I may never get to. I don't know. I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that this little story of the man of 30 is one of the most revealing vignettes in the step. It's one of the most revealing vignettes in the steps, as it illustrates not only the allergy, not only the twist of the mind, but the permanent, progressive, and fatal nature of this disease. Let's continue as the paragraph isn't done teaching us what we need to know. We could thereafter drink normally, but here is a man who at 55 years found he was just where he left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's permanent. Now, I'm going to take issue with something Bill wrote. It says, but here is a man who at 55 found he was just where he left off at 30. No, I'm going to disagree with Bill there. He was worse off because there's 20 some years of the progression of the disease. So he's not where he was at 30. He's remarkably worse. Every single day I get up in the morning, I say, Modeh Ani, thank you, God, for this day. Okay? Thank you, God, for this day. Okay? Now, I wake up and I am a worse compulsive overeater than I was the day before. Not the same, worse. There's a song, I've mentioned this in here a million times. There's a song from when I was a kid by the Spiral Staircase. It's called I Love You More Today Than Yesterday, but Not As Much As Tomorrow. I need God more today than I needed God yesterday, but not as much as I'm going to need him tomorrow. Does that make sense? I need God more today than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow. Let's keep going. Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. I'm going to again disagree. We are worse than ever. We are worse than ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. There can be no lurking notion. Clear your mind. When you get the thought that says, when this person is married, I'm going to have a piece of cake. When that person is born, I'm going to have whatever. When this happens, I'm going to eat this or I'm going to eat that. Don't kid yourself. The killing force of the food will take you to hell faster than you can imagine. and drag you to hell and then hell's basement. The hell that you have in your mind is not as bad as where you're actually going to end up. The disease is permanent. The disease is progressive. And if untreated, the disease is fatal. Middle of 33. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop as he did on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. The strength of the mental twist is unbelievable because it has a sidekick too, and that's the mental blank spot. The mental twist will speak to you in the most seductive way possible in your own voice. It is a great salesman. It knows what to tell you to get you to eat the food because it wants the food to make it, the mind, feel better. Because when I'm not eating, I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. Throw in scared to death, insecure, guilt-ridden, shame-ridden, frustrated, jealous, angry. Throw those things in there, and you see how I was eating the way I was eating was to put out the fire. Remember that food was never the problem. Food is the solution to the problem. And the solution to the problem means that the steps are going to treat the problem. What is the problem? The problem is the way I feel when I'm not eating. And through the working of the steps, I am going to find relief, peace, serenity, happiness, joy, self-acceptance, love of God, respect of others, beyond my wildest dreams. Beyond my wildest dreams, I am going to find those things. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. I want to talk about something that we've talked about in here. I have said to you that this is a spectrum disorder. I have described that to you. I cannot prove it to you. I don't have scientific backing. I do not have anything in the big book that says this is indeed a spectrum disorder. And from listening to me and from thinking about some of the things I've said, a person could get the idea that the manifestation of that spectrum always comes out in how much we weigh. That the more you weigh, the lower down or the higher up on the spectrum you are, depending on how you look at it. I want to assure you of something. This was pointed out to me by someone I adore. Just because someone weighs more than you, or you weigh more than them, does not necessarily reflect the entire picture. Some of us are affected in ways that are not going to show up on the scale. Maybe your relationships have been a disaster area. Maybe your life has been a disaster area because of this disease. Maybe you can't function in the world because of this disease. Maybe you never weighed north of 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 pounds, but you can't stop vomiting. You can't stop starving yourself to death. Maybe you can't handle life on life's terms. That's the spectrum too. So the spectrum that I'm talking about does not necessarily have to manifest itself in how much you weigh or how much you don't weigh. Some of us have been destroyed by this disease, and it's nothing that a scale will pick up. The weight that we've carried was very relatively normal. But the obsession with food, the obsession with eating and vomiting, the self-destructive behaviors have put you in a position where you can no longer function. That shows up on the spectrum too. So I believe that it is a spectrum disorder, and I'm talking about it because Bill's talking about, certain drinkers, and he says it's women. There's women that could drink most men under the table. Your gender does not reflect the depth at which you are affected. I know it says that in here. I get that. But I do not believe that gender is related or gender is indicative of the depths of the, excuse me, 1 second. I don't believe that, that's better. Gender is attached to the level of affect that one has. You can be a man and greatly affected as I am. You can be a woman and be greatly affected as I am. You could be a man and not be as affected. I don't believe gender plays into it at all. At all. I just don't. Maybe it does in alcoholism. I doubt it there too. I'm not an alcoholic, but just based on what I've observed, I see women that are alcoholics whose lives have been ransacked by their alcoholism, ransacked, and drug addiction and gambling. I don't believe that gender is really attached to this. I believe that the reason he's mentioning gender is because of the time, 1937, 38, the book was written in 37, 38, early 39. At that time, that was the prevailing belief. I do not hold with that. I believe that gender is mutually exclusive from one's level of affect. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right? Somebody's got to shake their head. Okay, thanks. All right. If called alcoholic, certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished. I'm at the bottom of 33 at their inability to stop. We who are familiar with the symptoms see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try to get them to see it. And it says here, true when this book was first published, but a 2014 US-Canada membership survey showed that about 12% of AAs were 30 and under. The average age of an Alcoholics Anonymous member is 33. The average age of an OA member is 55. And I got those statistics from AA on the AA side and OA on the OA side. But that doesn't mean that that's everybody. I'm just giving you an average age of who we are. The reason that younger people come into AA than OA, and I came in at 24. There's teenagers that come in. There's a girl in my Scottsdale meetings. She may even be here today. I don't know. But I don't have the time to look through everything and see who's here. She came to one of my big book studies in San Diego, California, when she was 4 years old. She's now 16 years old and comes to Scottsdale almost every day. And she came to the retreat that we had in August here in Phoenix. She came to one of my big book studies when she was just 4 years old. But alcohol tackles you in a very brutal way at a young age. The DUIs and the arrests and the police and the courts get involved very, very soon. This disease for many, as Leah M. says, it's like getting kicked to death by a bunny rabbit. It's a slower death in many, many cases. So, and we keep convincing ourselves we're going to handle it ourselves. And of course, the reality is we can't. we can't. But it takes a while sometimes to be convinced of that, and that's unfortunately the reality. But if you want to be smart and you're younger, don't leave, work the program. You'll be very, very glad you did. And if you're young and you're here and you're working the program, everybody 30 years from now, when I'm long gone, is going to be very jealous of you, because they're going to say, man, I wish I would have come in when I was that age, and they didn't. And you're going to make them green with jealousy. So if you're young, stick around, don't leave. Page 34, top of the page. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our willpower. There's the understatement of the year. I was raised in Chicago, Illinois. I was born there too. And I have vivid memories of doctors screaming at the top of their lungs at my mother, screaming at the top of their lungs at my poor father about how much I weighed and what I was eating, etc., etc. I felt shame. And let me tell you this, by the time I was 5 and 6 years old, I was already trying to diet. I was trying to control the amount of food I was eating, and I could not. I could not. All right. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for a year. If he's a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remain sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. I attended a talk about 15, maybe 20 years ago at the North Scottsdale Fellowship Club. And I was with my wife, actually, when I went to this. There was a guy there that had been in the National Basketball Association. He played for the Dallas Mavericks. And he told a story of a $13 million rider in his contract, that if he would test during the year at random times, and if he was alcohol and drug free on all these tests over the period of a year, he would get an additional $13 million in his pocket. He got drunk the first night. Couldn't do it. With 13 million reasons not to drink, he couldn't do it. And if he can't do it with 13 million reasons not to, I can't do it either. I can't do it just because I want to. If I could, I wouldn't be here this morning. I'd be watching ESPN, or I'd be watching cartoons, or I'd be doing whatever I'd be doing. But I'm here because I cannot control this disease. I cannot control what I eat and how much I eat. I can't control what I eat because of the twist of the mind. I cannot control the amount I eat because of the physical allergy. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Let me stop right there. That's a lot of stops. That's a lot of the use of the word stop. In the back of my mind, when I was young in OA, I decided that I would get down to a certain weight and get these jerks off my back. And once these guys were off my back, I would go back and eat normally again. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. And then I went through a period where I just said I didn't care. I was never going to get a girlfriend. I was never going to be okay. I was never going to be thin. I had way too much weight to lose. It would take me years to lose the weight. I might as well get good and drunk this time, and I did. When I say that, I'm quoting Bill's story. I might as well eat the Doritos and eat the ice cream, because what difference does it make? Well, it makes a lot of difference. And then I wanted to live. God whispered on the ember of my heart that was still not burnt up. And it lit up with a desire to live my life. And I said, I want to stop and I want to be free. As Leah M. says, the co-founder of Vision, how free do you want to be? How free do you want to be? And I've been abstinent ever since, 26 years ago. Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? For a very long time, my friends would ask me, why do you do what you do? Why do you do it? And I thought the answer to that question is, you don't understand how much I love food. I love candy. I love Doritos. I love whatever, French fries. I can go on and on. I love this and I love that. But 99% of the time, I didn't know 100% of the time, I didn't know myself. But 99% of the time, I didn't know what to tell them. Because if I told them the truth, they wouldn't believe it. And here's the truth. I don't know. All I knew is I was incredibly unhappy and I was incredibly uncomfortable when I wasn't eating. And you put that food in my mouth, that Dorito, that ice cream, that whatever, you put that in my mouth, and for about 9 seconds, I'm in bliss. I'm in bliss. There's a movie called The Wizard of Oz. Those monkeys scared the crap out of me as a kid. They still do. But there's a point at the beginning of the movie where Dorothy goes from Kansas to Oz. And when she lands in Oz, everything goes from this sepia, this gray, sepia is like gray, this gray, dull, black and white kind of thing to the most beautiful color, this technicolor, this color that is beyond beautiful, beyond enriching to the soul. It's just beautiful. And without understanding it, that is what was happening to me every time I ate a piece of pizza. The world went from this sepia, this gray, dull, kind of yucky, ugh, to everything is just beautiful. Now there's a problem. The problem is, number one, the color, it only lasts for about 9 seconds. And then it goes away. There's another problem. Once that color is in my brain, I have already triggered the physical allergy. It is impossible for me as a compulsive overeater to eat M&Ms or French fries or pizza or cake or what have you, or whatever, and not trigger this physical allergy. This physical allergy. What is an allergy? It is an abnormal adverse reaction to a food, a beverage, or a substance. Adverse means it's harmful. And abnormal means that the reaction is not suffered by most, it's only suffered by the few. See, if diabetes was a normal condition, it wouldn't be classified as a disease. Not everybody is a diabetic. Not everybody has myopic vision. Not everybody has headaches. Not everybody has tinnitus. Not everybody has asthma. You get the picture. So these are considered diseases. What is a disease? It is something that separates me from the norm. It separates me from the normal. That's the definition of a disease. So we have an illustration of the mind. We have an illustration of the allergy. And that is what we're dealing with. That is what we're dealing with. The disease is permanent. The disease is progressive. And if untreated, the disease is fatal. You can die with the disease, meaning you're in recovery. You can die from the disease, meaning you're in the food. Now, I'm just going to ask that we're going to go to questions and answers now. And I'm going to just remind you guys that if you asked a question last week, I'm not telling you not to ask one this week.